Got to do something. Got to. I'm doing something to attract your attention. Good day, folks. Ah, so welcome to another magical Monday.
Yeah. Welcome, welcome, welcome. You get to have another conversation with yourself, and we get to have conversations with
Well,
ourselves.
I appreciate the people that comment on the shorts when I take
Yeah.
it and I split this into shorts. And there's always these people that don't have much in their account and they don't use a real photo and they gotta always have negative stuff to say. It's kind of
The
funny.
trolls, you mean?
I guess that's what you call them. They're just.
Yep, that
But
is definitely what they're called.
but this show is a whole hour long. So when you comment and make negative comments on a 15 or 30-second segment of it, you're not getting the whole picture.
Yeah,
Just so
yeah.
you know.
It would be nice to get people to actually go reference the show rather than just the segment. But I didn't. I didn't
Well,
read the.
I get it that they're not they don't want to watch a whole hour of
Yeah.
Brad and Casey talking about aliens.
Well, that's why you speed it up. You go and like you're gonna watch it, and then you put it at 1.5 or 2.
I do it at 2.
Yep, and then you just watch it back, and it happens fast.
Yeah, and I don't know. Maybe some people watch it. Maybe they watch it on their own time. But I understand it. They're just zipping through the shorts. They find stuff that's interesting, and they start commenting on it. And
Or if you're a speed reader, you could always put it into a system that basically puts it all into a transcript for you and read the transcript.
yeah, so there's a couple
There you
tips for you.
go.
Today we're going to be talking about the magic of cinema, or like film. And the reason we're doing this is because I was connecting with another guy and he was going to do this, but he's out job hunting. So we decided we'd talk about that today instead of just wasting all that graphics and stuff that I created.
Oh yeah. I don't mind talking about cinema. I grew up in Southern California, and
There you go.
most people who grew up in Southern California are at least somewhat familiar with the way that cinema works. But yeah, I grew up fairly close to Paramount Studios, and I used to know a lot of people in the movie industry.
Well, it's an interesting thing in the illusion that you create. And now they're doing a lot of the stuff is that CGI and digital, which I don't like so much because the movies are now unbelievable where, a big plane crashes and explodes and the guy is running from it and he doesn't even get knocked over or nothing. He just makes it. And it's unbelievable now.
I was having a conversation of something similar actually with one of my stepkids one time, and we were talking about why I like older film better than I like modern film. And I explained to them like this. I said, well, when you have a whole generation of people that grows up and most of their culture and most of what they know about the world actually comes from something that's fake, meaning TV and everything else that comes from that, right? And they think that that's real
Right.
in some way, then their acting is going to be much worse than the people who went and experienced it, because it's another step removed, and it keeps getting another step removed and another step removed.
Well, there are a lot of people that don't realize how much staging goes into like a talk show or
Right.
things like America's Got Talent or Survivor,
Yeah.
Fear Factor, and all that stuff. Some
Exactly.
stuff that's real and some stuff that's not, and some stuff that isn't supposed to happen on the stage. And
Right.
but there's a lot of this stuff ties in kind of like the magic. I remember when I took a Universal Studios tour when I was young, and they showed us this. You went through and you saw the Jaws shark and all that stuff, but there was a part where there was this island, and they can't see the room and stuff here, but it's probably like about a 20 or 40, not an island, but a jungle,
Yeah.
like a 40-foot circle. And that's where Tarzan and Gilligan's Island and all that stuff was filmed.
Yep.
And it's just a teeny little space. So when Gilligan comes out of the jungle, he's just coming out of there. And then when it's Tarzan, they just go to a different place with different trees, and the lion comes out of the jungle, and that's Tarzan.
Right.
And they're using the same stage set
Yeah.
for multiple things. Any jungle type thing. It's just a small little 40, 50 circle of palm trees and shrubs and
Even the
stuff.
rooms, like it's fascinating. Like if you ever get a chance to tour a studio, I would highly recommend it to anybody. It's really fun to actually see how these things are done.
It is.
But if you study cinematography and you study film, you see very quickly how really you're only seeing a frame. And you can take that same frame and you can show it in 5 different ways and get people to emotionally react in 5 different ways. It's one of the reasons why I don't trust news,
Right.
because they can frame it any way that they want, because it's a camera that's framing it. They can make it look like there's thousands of people at a protest when there's 5.
Right. That's why you see them walking around like this, right?
Yeah.
Me and my wife recently went to the Cirque show out by the Mall of America. It was bizarre.
Mhm.
That was the name of it, even though it was kind of bizarre. And then Monica had gotten us comp passes and a backstage tour. That's you. Maybe not. What was he on or sneeze?
Yawn.
Oh, okay. No wonder I didn't hear it.
Yep. It was
It
yawn.
was an illusion.
Yeah, I've had a long day.
So we went to this backstage thing, and probably about 80, 90% of the stuff that's happening is back there.
Yeah.
All the different costumes and the rigging and the trucks and
Right.
they have a restaurant back there for all the performers to be able to eat, and then exercise equipment for them, and
Right.
massages and showers and all that stuff. And then you get into the little stage, which is still very significant. You don't know what's going on. And there was a
Right.
situation that happened. There was a guy that was doing the fire spinning a baton thing.
Hmm.
And then he was going on to his next set. I think he was going to go get those, I don't know what they're called, the fire.
The ones on a rope.
Yeah.
Poi.
Yeah. Boy, that's it. See, this guy knows stuff. All you have to do is describe it and he knows the answer. But I think he was going to
A
go
lot
into
of
that
time.
set, and he went back to get his stuff, but they wouldn't give it to him. We thought, what the heck? That was kind of weird. And then all of a sudden the announcement comes on and goes, due to a technical difficulty, we'll come back soon.
Mhm.
And I thought, what the heck? It's kind of weird. It was just quiet for a little while. Nobody's doing nothing. And they came back on. They proceeded to do the show. And I thought, what happened? And what it was the guy that was doing the fire juggling forgot to take off his jacket. He was supposed to take off his shiny, pretty jacket because it was probably like acrylic or something. And it's a fire hazard.
Oh,
So he shouldn't have been out there juggling with his jacket on.
got it.
Should have took his jacket off, and he didn't have his jacket on, so they shut down the whole show. So that's the power of the fire marshal, being able to do stuff like that.
Yeah,
We ain't going no further. It was kind of bizarre.
that's cool.
Those are the things that people don't see. And
Yeah.
I like these kind of things because it does reflect the magic. I remember there was a place in Glendora,
Yeah.
and the people that created the Gumby and Pokey show
Hmm.
were from Glendora. They had a little coffee shop there, and I used to go there, walk through the park and go to the coffee shop. And one day I was walking through the park, and there was this big giant bridge all of a sudden. I thought, that wasn't there before, and that's really weird. But it was big steel, it was kind of a greenish, because it's the rust turns to green or whatever.
Sure.
And I walk up to it and I tap on it, and it's all foam. But it was freaky because I never realized that it was there. And they were just filming a movie. So there was, when I got to the coffee shop, there's a big spaceship that was in the side of a broken building. And all this weird stuff that wasn't really there. And then, they do the show and then move on, it's gone.
Have you ever
Amazing.
seen a documentary of how they did like Star Wars?
I think I have, but I don't like replicating a lot of the things. With the CGI, being able to replicate.
Well, no, because it wasn't CGI. Like, because this is before CGI existed. Because CGI that's where they do all the computer graphics, right? So that's CG, computer graphics.
Right.
Anyways, so they actually made models of it all, and then they would paint the models and they would put all of the detail in such a way to where they came in with the camera and then they'd zoom way in with the camera and then they'd swoop across it like they were flying. And they would get these cameras that are small enough to be able to go into nooks and crannies in this and look like a spaceship flying around. It was really cool. I loved watching how they originally did it. and there was so much art to it. Whereas the modern CGI, I'm unimpressed. It's a
No, they're
computer that
just
does most
sitting
of
at
it.
a computer and they're doing cut and paste and all
Yeah.
this stuff. No,
No, I think the classic model look actually looked way better than modern CGI. I think there's a place for modern CGI. Like if you want to look like you're on the surface of a foreign world, we do have places on the planet where you can do that, or you can use CGI,
or you
right?
could sculpt it out of clay or something.
You can, but I actually think that the quality of the picture, if you go to an actual place that looks like it could be a different planet, right?
Mhm.
Like New Zealand is one of those places where they film sometimes, or Iceland. They film some really amazing things on Iceland. And then there's um, Death Valley. So sometimes they film things in Death Valley and makes it look like you're in a post-apocalyptic world or something like that.
Mhm.
That's cool. Like you can definitely get a lot of really cool views like that, but the CGI lets you like make it look very different. So I think that's an appropriate use of CGI. But whenever it comes to like making a spacecraft or something like that, I think models look much better. Because whenever you zoom way in and you're looking in at the model, they do it in such a way where all of the paint and everything else, it's giving it shading, it's giving it shadow. You can actually use the lighting sources the way that you need to make it look unique. You know what I
Well,
mean?
they're kind of programming that into the digital stuff, programming in flaws. So
Hmm.
there's some inconsistency and stuff.
Yeah.
Because if you just use the CGI and you made a wall, it'll be a flat wall. So they got to figure out how to make that so it doesn't look like a step and repeat pattern of stuff on there. It's got to look natural.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. I don't like it so much. I mean, I don't know. It's got its uses, the whole AI stuff, the chat GPT and all
Yeah.
that. I mean,
Yeah. They all have their uses.
the thing that we use to chop this thing up, normally you take a 1 hour video and you sit down, you have to go, cut, cut,
Right.
or even before the computer stuff, you had to actually cut the film
Hmm.
and stuff. But now I just basically take the URL, stick it in the thing, and then just wait for me to get an email alert and it's already done.
Yeah. I gotta say, the power of film is pretty amazing, though. Like, I actually thoroughly enjoy the old school film way of doing things. There is just a quality that you can get to certain things, especially whenever you're doing like film. It's amazing. Like,
Well,
you can get
there's
some really cool stuff that goes on there.
there's things that happen in film, like what is it? Is it called Foley?
Yeah, the Foley editing. Yeah, that's the sound.
The sound and how they take a stalk of celery and crack it, and it sounds like a guy's arms breaking when you crack the celery, or
It's
you know
something like
the
that. Yeah.
shoes clopping. It sounds like a coconuts. They used to use coconuts and make it sound like a horse.
Yep.
All that kind of
Yeah.
stuff.
Foley editing is cool. Like there's really a bunch of things that you can do in Foley editing that just like you would never imagine because all the sound jumbles together into the mic. And so then it all comes out to sound like something unique. There was one where they used a pillow, bowling ball, celery, and then they put something squishy in there. I can't remember what they put that was squishy in there. They basically they took the bowling ball and they went poosh, spoosh. It was sound.
So
It
like
was supposed to sound like somebody getting hit by a bat or something like that.
right.
I can't remember exactly what the scene was, but it was pretty cool.
So I wonder if they actually know what it sounds like to get hit by a bat, or if they're just doing something that maybe that's what it would sound like.
I think the latter.
Because you'd have to go to a lot of events and be able to experience people getting hit by bats.
I think the latter a lot of times.
Yeah.
I think that's really just kind of what it is. You kind of just imagine, okay, I'm going to hit this with the bat, and that's what I would think that this would sound like. And if it sounds realistic enough, if it makes you cringe, then they did a good job.
Well, all the blood and stuff. I remember there's a hypnotist friend of mine that for a while he got on a little kick of making movies, and he created a movie. It was called The Pisser, and I was the pisser.
And all
So,
you did is go pee?
well, the way it was there was this girl that had a car parked, and I was pissing in her gas tank,
Oh, okay.
and she caught me. What the hell are you doing? And she grabbed me by the privates and swung me around in a circle and threw me into a snowbank, and then picked up a bat or something and smacked me in the head, and my head cracked open and the brain was in the snowbank all bloody. So the way that was set up was, as
That's
I was
funny.
pissing, I had my belt tucked into my pants and then coming out my fly. So she grabbed the belt instead of my private parts and swung me around by the belt. So I was, and then she threw me in the snowbank. And then when she went to slam the thing down, of course, I get out of the way. And then there was a cauliflower that was my brain, all covered with red food coloring. And I threw that in the snowbank. So it looked like she smashed my head open. And
That's funny.
so it was fun.
Nice. That's entertaining.
Well, that's it's interesting. Did you ever do anything with making movies or anything like that, or
I
play around?
did.
Or
My uncle and I made a very poorly made, and we were doing it poor on purpose, an extremely poorly made martial arts film, and I was supposed to be the bad guy, even though I was way younger than him. No, well, not way younger. I'm like 7 years younger than him,
Yeah.
but yeah, I was supposed to be the bad guy, and we would do really bad dubbing, so that way it got that feel of the martial arts films. We would move our lips like we were saying one thing, and then we would say something else. And then to get the really high jumps and stuff, we used the trampoline, and we'd jump, and then you would duck down, and you would go up, and it makes it look like you went and went go flying in the air. And yeah, so we did some fun stuff like that, and it was entertaining. And we made that film. It was just a short film. My uncle found it one day, and then he goes, good memories. And then he didn't save it. So it's gone now. I wish he would have saved it. But yeah, I want to say 8 when we did that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I was pretty young. But we did a lot of stuff like that whenever I was a kid.
You have one of those little 35 millimeter or Super 8 cameras or something?
I believe that one was a Super 8.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure, which of course Super 8 doesn't look near as good as 35 millimeter. But yeah, we had that Super 8. And then later on, I had access to a nice reel-to-reel, like some of the old school original ones. And I did get a hold of some film, and we made some fun stuff on that. But yeah, it wasn't the direction I wanted to go in my life. Nope.
No, I never went through either. But on another note, I've always been kind of fascinated by how much money that the actors get paid, and that the number of actors and how many people are involved, how much money it must take to make that much money to be able to pay those actors that much money.
I know, right?
How does it? I know I understand the stuff about product placement, where Pepsi Cola will have a can in the back, so they must have paid a lot of money for some reason. But when you watch the movie and you see all the credits, that's a lot of people that get paid.
There's so many people that get paid. It costs sometimes millions of dollars to make a film.
Definitely millions from what I.
But not always. There are some very notable films that were on a shoestring budget. Clerks. I don't know if you're familiar with Kevin Smith.
Nope.
Yeah, Clerks was on a shoestring budget. He filmed that by maxing out his credit cards while he worked at a movie rental place.
Mm-hmm.
And he totally admits this now. You can actually watch things about Kevin Smith talking about this. He said that he was the manager of the place, and he was the one who was always working, and there was nobody else there. So whenever they called to verify it, he goes, "Oh, yep, I can verify he works here. Yep, I can verify he makes that much money," even though none of it was true. Oh no. So he got himself some decent balances on some credit cards. I mean, it would cost probably probably 4 times as much as he paid for it back then. But in some ways, it's cheaper now because the quality of film that he used and everything else was less than we can do with the cell phone now.
Well, when I did that Jaw Droppers thing in LA, it was a Magic infomercial, a
Hmm.
series of VHS tapes. That was when that Sony digital cameras just came in, and
Hmm.
those cameras are like $3,000 or $5,000, but they were people would talk about it's almost the quality of film. The
Yeah.
real nice cameras, and they had just
Yeah, they're really
bought three
nice.
of those things. And I got paid pretty good money when I was out there. I was just an assistant to the guy that was actually doing the thing.
Hmm.
But some of the monies that they paid, there was a woman that did like a 12-page script and she got like 20 grand.
Hmm.
That blew my mind. And then they bought
Hmm.
out the Twin Palms restaurant, and you
Hmm.
couldn't just, come in there before the crowd comes in if you're going to do that kind of stuff because they know the money's there. Says, no, you got to buy out the restaurant for the day. And that ain't cheap. They did that to a bar also. They bought out like an Oceanside. They bought out the bar so they could do a little bar scene.
Yeah,
Very expensive stuff to do all that.
it is. Yeah, and then you have to pay for a bunch of extras. And then the extras, it's tricky. So, like, it always sounds like you're in a crowded restaurant and it always looks like a bunch of people are talking, but they're actually all having lip conversations.
They're saying peas and carrots, peas and carrots, peas and carrots.
No, 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 they're not. They're not saying peas and carrots, but
I thought that's what you're supposed to say.
there's no audio can come out of their mouth. They're not allowed to, like, you're not allowed to actually, no sounds. You
Mhm.
can't, you got to word what you're saying. So you got to mouth it, but you can't actually say anything if you're an extra.
Another thing
So,
that's kind of interesting when we were
yeah.
out there doing that jaw droppers thing was the homeless people and the like street community and stuff.
Hmm.
They're real savvy to what's going on when you see cameras and stuff.
Hmm.
So that bar scene thing that we did, there was a couple that was in there that they didn't look familiar, so they weren't the extras, but they just saw it and they just walked in and sat down, and they were drinking out of the real bottles where we were supposed to be drinking just water and stuff.
Hmm.
And these guys were all saying, "Hey, what the hell?" To kick them out of there. And I remember the homeless guys when we were on the street in Santa Monica. We were doing the Third Street Promenade,
Hmm.
and the homeless guys they start getting into the picture and they
Hmm.
start talking loud, and they know that they'll do that because eventually we'll have to pay them off to get them out of the way,
Right.
and they do it intentionally. It's kind of a fascinating culture.
It is. It's pretty funny. Yeah, my favorite stuff was always stunts, though. I thought that that was really the most interesting area that they would do because they would make basically what ended up being a set that was like the size of a parking lot, and they would make it look like you were racing all over the city.
And the stunt stuff, it really is dangerous.
It can be.
It's
It can
it's
be. I had a friend in high school who went on to do stunts.
Granted, there's a big old one of those big air mattress thingies that they
Hmm.
fall on or whatever, but some of that stuff can screw up.
Oh yeah, they still get hurt all the time. Jackie Chan did all his own stunts, and he said he's broken every single bone in his body.
It's a lot of bones.
Yep. Yep.
I'm,
Sometimes more than once.
I'm running I'm running out of data.
Running out of data.
Yeah. What the hell time is it? Oh my God, it's only 5:30. We're halfway done.
It's only 5:30. Well, I mean, we've only been talking about movies this time frame.
I know.
Yeah. Have you ever seen Being John Malkovich?
No.
It's an extremely bizarre film, and I bring it up because watching it feels like you're in the middle of a psychedelic trip and you have no idea what the hell is going on. It is such a
Okay,
weird film, but
I
I
think
love John Malkovich. So
I think I've heard of it. And another one similar to that. Have you ever seen Memento?
I've seen Memento. I was not as fond of Memento.
I wasn't fond of it, but the concept is so freaking weird. Can you imagine if that was your life?
Yeah,
Where all of a sudden now I go, who the hell are you? It's like I lost all my memory. And I
yeah,
got to start over. Or he's
yep,
carrying Polaroids in his pocket and has a tattoo of his license number on his wrist and all that stuff.
yep.
Like that's going to do anything. It doesn't matter. No, I'm your friend. Check your pocket. Your right pocket. Check your right coat pocket. There's a picture of him. Okay, I think I trust you. But you still don't know. That would be the weirdest. That's what it was all about. The whole
That'd be
movie was
strange.
about this guy that forgot his past. It was like starting over again, kind of like a Groundhog Day kind of thing.
Yeah, it was like every day, right? He wakes up and he didn't remember anything every day.
I thought it would have happened. That's what Groundhog Day was, but I thought that Memento
No.
was,
Groundhog Days, he relived the same day over and
yeah, same kind of thing.
over again.
I thought,
Not exactly.
I thought Memento was at any time. All of a sudden, he just forgets at any time during the day.
I don't remember. It's possible that he would forget at any time, but yeah, it was a strange film. It was like watching somebody on drugs. Like,
Yeah, it was a weird one
yeah.
because he all of a sudden didn't trust anybody. He was
Mhm.
paranoid and stuff.
Speaking of not trusting everybody, you ever seen the movie Conspiracy Theory?
I think I have.
That's a cool movie. I like that movie. That was a really good movie.
What was it? Kind of like the Born Identity and all that kind of stuff.
No, not really. I mean, it had some similar concepts in it. Like this guy had like he thought he understood his memories, but he didn't really have all his memories. And so he was a total conspiracy theorist. And then he ended up like tapping into something that was actually, like basically made the guys that start coming after him, the conspiracy entities to start coming after him.
Oh, that sounds
They
like
started showing up with, the black helicopters that would have the whisper mode on them where they could throw a switch and they were quiet and all that kind of stuff, which those things actually do exist.
that sounds like that friend of mine in Costa Rica and the ayahuasca trip when he had that. He
Mhm.
thought the Colombian cartel was plotting something.
Yes, except that this was the entire movie. He thought people were plotting something against him until they actually were. And it was kind of a crazy film from there on out. But it's
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, it was a great movie. I actually really like that movie. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, in regards to magic and film, because you said cinema and magic. So, this is the fascinating thing I find about it because there's a ton of magicians, a ton of them that consult in Hollywood on how to trick the eye into
Right.
thinking that they see something that they don't. A
That
bunch of them.
that is some of the stuff that we were going to talk about with my friend Peter, and
Yeah.
he was thinking I was going to reveal stuff, but because I am a magician, I don't want to reveal secrets, but I will kind of allude to certain secrets that are kind of obvious.
Yeah.
Like, how does Peter Pan fly in those little movies?
Right. Well, I mean,
You probably know, right?
in the movie, they usually use a wire
Yeah.
and cable.
Yeah. So that's how a magician
They do
might
it on
consult.
stage too, and I
Yeah.
mean,
And there's ways of making those wires invisible.
the only impressive flying thing I've ever seen, because almost always I know exactly how they do it because I've seen it done in person. It's been explained to me how it's been done. I've actually seen the different contraptions on how to do it. I've actually built one myself, so I know how that kind of stuff works. The one that impressed me was there was this one thing of David Copperfield where David Copperfield was like, I'm going to levitate and fly. And he goes, of course, that's a trick. And then he says something like, or is it? And then he proceeds to fly out the theater and off into the night. And I thought that was really cool because you can't really predict the wires in the same way in that one. I mean, obviously they did, but in the theater, you're not really going to see, like, that's going to be weird, like have them fly out. You walk through those doors. So you're like, there was no wires there.
Sure. But yeah, there is always ways of getting all that stuff done. That's why magicians are good for consulting on that kind of thing.
Right.
Because, again, there's ways of making the wires become invisible just by either lighting or background
Yeah.
or one way of making things seem invisible. If you have like a string, your eye can see the line.
Right.
So if you were to take like a Sharpie marker and you mark up the string in different ways,
Mhm.
that breaks the line.
Yeah.
So now your eye can't really follow where the string is.
Right.
So that's a little magic technique
That's the
that
reason why green fishing line works inside the water because it becomes invisible,
Yeah.
blends in with the water,
Yeah.
breaks it up.
So there's ways of doing that, like making a certain box seem a lot smaller than it is just by
Yeah.
the way that it's painted and the decor on it and stuff.
See, when I watched it done, I was fairly convinced that while they did have him fly, I don't think he actually flew out of the theater. I think that he flew to a certain point, and then I think the rest of it was an illusion that continued it onto the outside.
Sure, but what is the illusion?
I don't know. It could have been mirrors. It could have been a sheet of glass, and they were projecting on the sheet of glass. I mean, there's a million different ways to do it.
So the sheet of glass is what's taking off, and then they're projecting onto the glass as it's.
They totally could have done a sheet of glass outside, but of course, you're not necessarily going to see a sheet of glass outside against the night sky because it's clear.
Or whatever, but it still also has to be levitated somehow.
Right.
So the wires must still be there.
Yeah. But I was fairly convinced that that was the case, is that that's the way that they did it. Because, I mean, obviously they were filming part of it, and then they had the live audience that was there as well. But that particular one was aired live. So
It aired live. So you weren't in the theater. You were
I was
watching.
not in the theater whenever I saw that one. I knew some people that were there for that one, but no, I was not. I wasn't live whenever I watched it. It wouldn't have impressed me that much if it would have been filmed before a live audience or any of those other things.
But
which
even if
really
something is filmed before a live audience,
you can cut on that one because that just requires it to be filmed.
Even if you are in the live audience,
yeah.
Even if you are in the live audience, there's preparation for all that of where you're going to seat these people.
Oh yeah.
Certain people can't sit certain ways, and you can't just tape it off because then they go, well, why ain't anybody sitting here? Right. So they might tape it off and then put a camera and a light or something up on a platform so it has a reason.
Oh, that's clever. That's really clever.
That's there's a guy that I studied under. His name is Al Schneider. He's a local guy in Minneapolis, and that's who I studied sleight of hand with. And it's all about natural movements, and it's got to have a real logical purpose. Otherwise, the brain will go, something's weird, something's fishy here.
Sure.
So you need to put something in place so that, oh, that makes sense. So it's really no different than like if you wanted to hide a camera, you put a big paper mache mountain over the top of it.
Yeah.
And now you can't see the camera. So how did they get a shot from that with that big mountain in the way?
See, I like illusion. I actually do think illusion is really cool. And I think it's really fun to watch a good illusionist and everything else. But a good illusionist is about the contraptions that they come up with a lot of times.
Well, what do you consider? Like there's magic, and then there's sleight of hand, and then what do they call illusion? What do you consider an illusion?
Well, usually illusions make it appear that there's something that there's not by the way that they manipulate it, but by the contraption itself. Like, you spin it and then it makes a folding door shift or something like that. And there's a mirror on the inside to make it look like the cabinet's empty.
Well, isn't that kind of the same? Like if a magician takes a coin and throws it into his hand and it disappears, was that an illusion? Or if a guy had a box?
Definitely sleight of hand because you're not using.
I know, but let me finish. So he did that thing with motion with his hand. Now you got that box you're talking about, and you spin the box and a door closes. Isn't that sort of the same thing? It creates an illusion with the different motions that were happening. It's more sleight of physical prop.
I can see why a magician would ask me that question because it is an illusion.
Well,
that is creating to
me it's all an illusion.
But sleight of hands, the way that I distinguish sleight of hand in my head is that sleight of hand is about the skill of your manual dexterity.
Yeah.
And that an illusion is utilizing some kind of like mechanical method or optical kind of effect that you're getting from something that's not necessarily just your hands.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the difference between physical manipulation with the human organic body versus some machine that's creating this illusion by making somebody look
Right.
like they're flying.
Like, you know, the other day we did where you did the breaking of the string,
Yes.
right? That is definitely illusion. That is, you know, you were actually breaking some string too. So there's some actual thing that goes on there, but I'm sure that there was a part of it where there had to have been something where you weren't breaking parts of it in order to make it keep appearing whole.
And would that be
Right.
sleight of hand? It kind of would be sleight of hand
It'd be
because
sleight
there
of
is
hand because you're manual dexterity.
because there is some dexterity involved with it.
Right.
So that's to me, it's all an illusion. It's a perceived.
Sure.
This is doing that, and it looks. Because then there's the trick, the magic trick. I don't like the word trick because it's like I'm trying to trick you. You know, pick your pocket or something.
That's what I love about sleight of hand magicians. Sleight of hand magicians hate the word trick because they're like, they tell you flat out, now this isn't really happening. This is just what you perceive. And then they go, and then they do it, and everybody goes, whoa.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sleight of hand is absolutely my favorite. I do like illusion, but sleight of hand is absolutely my favorite.
Well, there's
you can
some-
sit there in front of a good, you know, like sleight of hand artist, and they will do things in front of you, even if you're really good at noticing things. And they'll do it in front of you, and even though you know how it's done, you can't see it.
Right. There's things that our brains, like I showed you that basketball, the white shirts and the black shirts playing the basketball, and then the gorilla shows up.
Sure.
You might have seen that video. I just ruined it for you if you haven't seen it.
You can actually watch. You can watch on Netflix. I believe it's called How the Brain Works or something like that. But you can find it on Netflix, and they actually one of the episodes does that particular illusion on it. It's not.
Yeah.
That's not really an illusion. That is just
Well,
showing you the way the brain
it is
works.
kind of an illusion because you did not see the gorilla. How did you not see the gorilla? Because
Right.
the gorilla was there.
See,
So it isn't-
I've never had that. I see it.
Well, once you see it, you can't unsee it.
I'm hyper aware.
Well, there's a guy that's no longer with us. His name was Sylvester, and he used to do this thing called the Sylvester pitch,
Mhm.
and it was almost a juggling thing because the timing had to be just perfect with doing it. But what it looked like was he was reaching in the air and producing a coin. He'd throw the coin in his hand, he'd grab another one, he'd put it in his pocket, produce another one. He's just grabbing coins out of the air, throwing them into his hand, and producing these coins. And then all of a sudden, he produced this big giant nut. It was about probably 4 inches diameter and maybe an inch thick.
Yeah.
This big giant nut. Whoa, where did that come from? And you don't see how it works.
Yeah.
But once you know how it works, it's obvious.
Oh
Kind
yeah.
of like the gorilla. But if you don't know how it works, you don't see what's happening, and it's right there in front of you.
Yeah.
So there's that kind of magic too, which is, I guess it's kind of sleight of hand because he has the juggling capability of it.
Right. But you also have to understand how perception
But,
works.
but the same thing could probably work with it if a machine was doing it and throwing that. Because the way that it works, I'm not really revealing anything here, but when you're focusing on one thing, you can't see the stuff around it.
Right.
It's kind of like, where are my keys? And they're right there on the table. Have you seen my keys? And
Right.
you just don't see your keys for some reason.
Yeah.
And then, oh my God, there they are. And that's fascinating to me. It's kind of like
It is.
going
It's
back to
super
the
fascinating.
film, what we're talking about, is that's how our brain kind of works. It takes multiple pictures, and that's motion. And then there's one frame that gets like chopped out of there, and you just don't remember that.
Yeah.
So there's a little element that happens when we're watching things that I just didn't see it.
What do we got on the
Oh, is there somebody there?
the comments there? Well, they commented and then they left.
Oh, it's Frank Togas. Hi, Frank. How you doing there? The theater entrance was a set.
The theater entrance was a set. That's possible. I suppose it's possible the theater entrance was a set. However, this was aired live, which is very different than all the rest of it. Aired live actually is live. The whole thing is live.
I know, but it's still got cameras focused on the set. And Frank
It does.
is a magician friend of mine,
Oh, okay.
so he knows.
So that probably was it then. Yeah. But
And
it was one of my favorite illusions that I've seen it not in person. My favorite illusion that I saw in person was at the Magic Castle. And I can't remember enough details about it to say, but it was kind of a take on the sawing person in half, and I just loved the way they did it because there was this like disappearance thing that happened. And I can't remember exactly what happened, but I think like the legs got up and like walked or something like that.
oh, that was
I don't remember. I was so young
with
whenever
a
it happened.
chainsaw.
I'm fairly certain.
That was
Yeah.
Frank would know the guy's name. I can't remember the guy's name off the top of my head.
But it was at the Magic Castle where I saw it.
yeah, he's running around with a chainsaw, and all of a sudden he cuts the guy's top off, and the legs continue to walk across the stage.
That's the one.
Yeah,
That's the one.
that is God dang it, I can't remember his name. Anyways, but those are some of the things that the brilliant magician's mind comes up with. And I was just going to share. There's a trick that I wanted to buy that the effect isn't all that great. It's a stack of checkers. It's called the Blue Phantom.
Okay.
And there's a stack of checkers, and I think one of the checkers disappears or something. Then it's back on the stack of checkers. But there's like probably 3 or 5 cool little things, mechanical things that happen with this cylinder and the checkers and the pin that they go on, and they do all do little things.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes magicians get into that so much that the effect is like, so what? It disappeared. I've seen people do that stuff before. But when you see out, like, you ever look at those automatons? You know what those are?
Automatons?
They're like robot people, but they're not people.
Oh, automatons.
Automatons, that's what it is.
Automatons. Yes.
Automatons. Automatons.
Automatons, yes.
How those things are manufactured is mind-blowing.
Yeah.
When you see the detail that goes into those things. And
I took a class on it whenever I was a kid. There was a course that was being offered at the it was like at the local community or something like that. And I went and I checked it out. And then whenever they were dismantling some of them and they were repairing some of them at Disneyland, they were, I can't, it was the Tomorrowland where they had all the automatons at.
Yeah.
So there was that, if you recall, they dismantled them all and then some of them got repaired and then reused. But whenever they were dismantling some of them, they actually worked on it behind just a sheet of glass so people didn't go try to touch or anything else. And they were actually showing the way they worked. And they're amazing. They're way better than robots because they work by wire.
Yeah,
they're
I don't
purely
know.
mechanical.
I don't know how somebody could come up with that.
Yeah.
It's mind-boggling.
It really is, and those automatons are just absolutely magnificent. Like some of the automation stuff that I saw that they had during the like World's Fair and stuff like that. They had some of that still in Disneyland's Tomorrowland or Disney World's Tomorrowland.
Yeah, there's a local friend of mine that created an illusion. It looked like it was an automaton, but it wasn't. It was actually my friend Craig Carlson was Zoltar.
Oh.
And he would be in this box, but it looked like just the upper half of him because there was nothing on the bottom.
Right.
So that was created with an illusion. And he was a real person, but he was made up to look like a robot. And they would like ask him a question, and then he'd write it on a piece of paper in a little robotic thing. And
yeah,
and all of his makeup made him look like a robot. And people were looking at it like, "Is that real? Is that a real?"
Yeah.
They didn't know.
There's this guy that I watched who does this robot dance, and without any makeup, he totally gives that effect. That he does it so well, and the way his facial expressions are and everything else, he looks like he's a robot, like he's totally like it's fake, and it's real because he starts out and then he goes to go do his robot dancing bit, and all of a sudden like everything changes, his face changes, everything changes, and he's like in the character, and he just does it that exceptionally well. It's awesome to watch that done.
Sleight of face.
Sleight of face. Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty cool. So what is it? I mean, obviously, sleight of hand is probably your favorite form of magic since that's what you like to do the most.
Yes and no. Again, there's some things that work by themselves that are just fascinating.
Yeah.
So it isn't necessarily my most favorite because there's some things that are really really simple. Like I'll give you an example. I'll maybe even expose this one because I learned it.
If somebody's exposed it before, it's pretty easy to.
No, I don't like to expose stuff. Maybe I'll tell you after this thing because
Yeah.
I just don't like to because it really ruins the magic for people that care. But I
Right.
was driving truck for a guy, driving his props down to it was kind of like by Dollywood up there in the Smoky Mountains.
Yeah.
And I got there early, so didn't have anything to do. And there was this little um like a not a fun house, but it was a thing on magic,
Yeah.
amazing magic, and it was like $6 to go in there. So I went in there and I see this trick, I know that trick, I see that one, I know how that works, I've seen that one, I've seen this one. Then I come across to this like a fortune teller. It was just a robot person with a crystal ball on a table, and this crystal ball was a glass ball. It would roll to the edge of the table, then it would roll back, roll to the side edge of the table, but it wouldn't fall off. And I saw that. I was going, how the hell does that work? Can't figure that one out. I'm looking
Nice.
looking across the side to see if there's maybe some kind of like invisible thread or something, and some levers that are kind of moving the ball around. I think that'd be kind of risky because it might go to the edge and fall off.
I'd imagine it being a magnet, but
Well, it was a glass ball. I thought about a magnet too.
you could trick the eye to thinking that the glass ball is empty.
Well, this was a glass ball. It
Okay.
was a glass ball.
Yeah. That's pretty
So
cool.
I left the place thinking, what the hell? I'm sitting outside and I go, God damn it. I paid another $6 and went back in there again. And I had to check it out. And I went through it and I just could not figure it out. So there was the fun in it, the fun and the magic of not knowing how something
Hmm.
works. That's part of the reason I don't like to expose a secret because you steal it from you steal the magic.
Right. I agree.
So I left, still not knowing how it worked. And then later in the day, all of a sudden, and I'll share it with you later.
Okay. There's
You don't get to see it.
some really cool ones like the most magical place that I went to whenever I was a kid on a very regular basis, besides the 2 times I got to go to the Magic Castle, would have been like Universal Studios or Disneyland. Disneyland way more than Universal Studios because Disneyland in the Haunted Mansion used tons and tons of magic tricks in there, tons of them.
Well, there's a friend of mine, Matt Dunn, that does Screamtown down in
Mhm.
Shakopee or Chaska or wherever the hell it is. And there's a
Yeah.
lot of magic that happens in that
Mhm.
people are scared of things. Um, you do those haunted houses where you feel the cobwebs go over your face and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I can't stand that. Nobody like I won't go into haunted houses because they started doing this thing where they touch you now, where little feathers touch you and things like that, and I react violently.
Good to know.
I went to Not Scary Farm one time whenever I was a kid, and I was going through, and they were doing those little things where they come up and they tickle you, and it really didn't bother me until they did this like jump scare thing where the guy actually touched me, and as soon as he touched me, without even thinking about it, I turned around, whack, and hit him once, and I was like, sorry, they almost kicked me out.
I was asking, how long ago is this? Because now they don't let anybody touch anybody.
I was
A long time ago.
I was like 15.
Yeah, because they used to do all that stuff, and then all of a sudden, haunted houses, you can't touch anybody anymore. And it's not-
Probably because of that reason. I actually am a little embarrassed about that.
Well, it's
that
part of
happened
it
once.
of a person getting their ass kicked, but the other part was some people touching people inappropriately and stuff like that.
Yeah. Oh, I bet. Yeah.
And then lawsuits and shit, or all that
Yeah.
stuff. So they just quit doing it.
There's cool stuff at haunted houses though. There's really fun stuff to like see, and like I used to like to figure out how they did everything. I had a friend who his dad would set up a haunted house every single year, and the way he would do it is he would put up these plastic, so it was like a tunnel, and he went in, and then he went downstairs, and he walked through, and then he went back upstairs on the other side, and then he went through the kitchen and went
Oh, wow.
outside, and then in the haunted house he had all these illusions and different things set up. I love things like that, but most of that was all very easy ones with like projectors
Well,
and
we used to do that when we were
images on
kids. We
smoke.
turned my garage into a haunted house, and my dad had a bunch of tar paper, so we hung it over the rafters and made little, pathways and stuff. And
That's cool.
we had a little teeter totter stepper stone thing. When you stepped on it, it pulled a string, would pull the pin out, and a little glow in the dark skeleton head would or a skull would go up and bounce between a couple rubber bands, and it would make a little buzzer go off and scare people. We had a guillotine. It was set up on a ladder. A thing would come down and chopped off a head. And it was just one of those foam wig heads.
Hmm.
It would roll across the thing, and you had all that stuff happening.
That's cool.
All the stuff where you put your hands in with the rubber gloves and feel the eyeballs, which is really
Yeah,
peeled grapes. And
that's fun. I
we
like
used to
the
do that
things like
as
that.
a kid. That's what, like I said, I've been in events all my life. That's what we used to do, is create little haunted houses. And
Yeah.
we used to do all the I Was a Teenage Werewolf movies.
Hmm.
We'd charge kids a quarter to watch the movies and sell them Kool-Aid and popcorn.
That's awesome. I used to love making food illusions, and then people like edible ones, and then you can eat them during Halloween time. So it looked like you were
Food
eating
illusions.
really gross things. Oh yeah, you'd like do pudding, yeah, it'd be like a pudding kind of Jello mixture. You put it into a mold to make it look like a brain, and then you use
Sure.
food. Use special kind of like coloring, like raspberry sauce and
Like
things like that, to make it look like it was
custard,
all like
like
everywhere,
like a custard or
like a
pudding or
custard.
something with a little
Yeah,
bit of raspberry in it. So it looks like a bloody pus or something.
you could do things like that. Yeah, all kinds of weird things. Yeah, I used to love creating food illusions. So like the one with the eyeballs, or is the peeled grapes. Yeah, I did. I did that.
Yeah, who was it? There was for a while. It was a little thing about
We colored
dirt.
them though.
Dirt. It was ice cream and cake. It looked like
Yeah,
dirt. You serve it in a bucket and a shovel, and it looks like dirt, but it's really chocolate cake.
yeah, yeah. There was one my ex-wife used to make all the time. That was like her favorite thing to make was ghosts in the graveyard, and it's chocolate pudding, crumbled Oreo cookies on top of it, so it looks like dirt, right? And then you would like build like little structures on it. You put, what were they? The
Marshmallows,
nougats? No,
nougats.
they're little. I can't remember. There's a type of cookie that you use for the gravestones, and then of course you would.
Oh, maybe a Nutter Butter peanut butter sandwich
It wasn't
cookie.
a Nutter Butter. It was
Ah, could have
they
been.
were perfectly oval, where the Nutter Butters look like a peanut. These were perfectly oval, and they were kind of minty.
Oh, Salarino or something like that.
I can't remember. I can't remember. If I were to go to the store around that time frame
Yeah,
and I
you'd
was
find them.
shopping for it again, I'd find them. They're
Yeah.
very common. Yeah, and then we would do that, and of course you'd use whipped cream, and those were the ghosts.
Well, I like the concept of magic and I like the idea of illusion. I don't like tricking people because it's not ethical. For entertainment purposes only.
Right.
People don't realize how easy it is for someone to fool them.
Oh yeah,
They,
that was my favorite thing to study. Whenever I started studying later on in life, I actually whenever I went into network engineering, um, the way that I got into network engineering was actually by studying network security. And the thing that I was the most fascinated by for pretty much most of my adult life was social engineering is what they call it.
Mhm.
But it's basically where you use people to do the breaches. You're not actually breaching or hacking anything. People are just giving the stuff to you. You just have to know how people work.
Exactly. And that is a whole nother topic that we could talk about someday. The whole political stuff that's going on,
Oh
that has
yeah.
been going on forever,
Hmm.
and the media, and people are very manipulable.
Very.
And I think we're done.
Yeah, I think so. It's
5:59.
5:59.
Woohoo! Another one in the can, as they say in film talk.
Yeah, and I'm sure next time we'll talk more about psychedelics and magic and
Yeah.
the perception of the world and how our perceptions shape it.
Yeah, the reason this went the film route was because me and another guy were going to do it today, and he had some interviews he was doing.
But I
So
think it totally fits. And
it
the
does
biggest
fit.
reason is because everything we're talking about is about the way that we perceive the universe.
It does fit. And what takes it to another level is when we start talking about the magic and the psychedelics, is when you have a psychedelic experience like I had in Costa Rica, is that an illusion or is that real?
Yeah, there are some bizarre things that happen whenever you're on psychedelics that the other people perceive as real.
And even if they're not real, if something can happen that heals you, like a placebo type of effect, and you get to be a better person out of it, who cares if it's real?
So, just to finish it out like this, because we're already talking about that, here's a really interesting thing, and hopefully he puts a little tiny short on this. We'll talk about this next time. So, we're talking about illusions and about
If you
psychedelics.
use the right words, the short will create itself.
Okay. So, we have illusions and psychedelics, and then you were saying that sometimes on the psychedelics, is it real or is it not? So the way that you know whenever you're in the room with somebody who actually practices real plant medicine shamanism type stuff, it's usually you're the sober one, they're the ones under the influence, and you aren't sure what's real. And that's whenever it gets really funky because they're not doing some sort of trick, they're not doing an illusion. There's no magic that's happening in the room as far as magic as in magic Brad does, sleight of hand type stuff. There's nothing like that happening. It's literally that the perception of existence begins to shift, and you, even sober, are able to start perceiving that, and that's whenever
Right.
it gets really weird. So we'll talk more about that
Right.
next time.
Boom, boom. Okay, signing off.
See you later.
Enjoy the rest of your day. Be good, be kind, be nice. Did I say be nice? I did.